2, 1, 0.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Channable, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Impact Cube 2022. I've been really looking forward to this day because it combines some of my favorite things. We have a live audience. You look amazing, by the way. We have many more people watching at home or at the office or in their garden. You're looking amazing as well. And we have an amazing speaker lineup. And what binds us, what we all want, what we crave for, is inspiration in the world of e-commerce. So we have many experts for you. Just to name a few, we have Mr. John Lin. He works as a business developer at bol.com, and he knows everything there is about the future of retail. He's going to inspire us with some of the trends that he's seen in China, one of the fastest growing companies over there. He's going to inspire you with that information. We have Robert Smit from Channable. Yes, the one and only. I know him from YouTube, but you might know him as your consultant or as your colleague. He's going to give a presentation in augmented reality. He's going to tell us about Sheila and her path to growth. Or what about Aida Oghabi? She is, amongst other things, she is the global product marketing lead at Google. And she's going to talk to us about the one thing that you don't have: patience. Patience and time, or our consumers, of course. Well, that's just to name a few of the topics that will be discussed during this session. But the true star of the show, ladies and gentlemen, that is you, because it is an interactive program. As you can see, there is this video, but there's also a chat function, and many of you are already using this, and that is great. So if you have a question for John, for Robert, or for Aida, do send them in. That way I can use them on my iPad and ask them to our experts. Right, well, let's do this. Let's open up the first polling question that we have for our audience. So this is something that you can vote. We have a question, and that is: what are the current challenges that you are facing in your part of the world, in your niche? Is that A, lack of data quality? Is it B, no, I'm missing insights about the target audience? Really relevant. Is it C, I lack an overview over data and channels, so lack of overview? Or is it D, as I said, the one thing that we all want, more time? Is it a lack of time? So use your technology, the beautiful gadget that you have, to let us know what you would vote in this polling question, and later on we'll get back to that. Right, so I think that in all the enthusiasm, I forgot to introduce myself. That happens a lot. My name is Jim Stolze. I don't work for Channable, but I am a big fan. I am your host for today. So my job is to introduce the speakers and make sure that the interactivity is at the highest level. But there's also one thing that I get to do, and that is to introduce myself. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mr. Jim Stolze. For that introduction, and you're very welcome. Also, right, so the nice people of Channable asked me to say, you know, we're forward-looking, it is about the future. Would you mind sharing us your thoughts on the future? What does it mean the future is fluid? Well, I think that is because the lines are blurring. Every line you can think of, I can give you some examples why this is a blurry line. For example, the line between virtual and digital, or physical and digital. Some people call this phygital. And what I mean with that is, I see some of you have a new iPhone. There is a small black dot on your iPhone. You can see this is, for me, one of the breakthroughs in phygital. I see some of you already have discovered it. Do you know what it is? It's not a camera. It's not a flashlight. It is LiDAR. LiDAR technology. And LiDAR is something that we used to know from self-driving cars, from autonomous vehicles. They had it on the roof and it mapped the surroundings. Well, from now on, every new Apple phone that you buy will have this very technology. It enables your phone to map the room. Who would want to use that? Well, for example, IKEA. They already have this app for some time. You might know it, IKEA Place. That way you can place digital furniture in your own home. But it was kind of iffy. It didn't quite work. But now with the LiDAR technology, it works brilliantly. So, for example, this is my entrance, my hallway. And if I would want to place a nice table, a side table, next to this cupboard, I can go to the online catalog of IKEA. I can find this beautiful laptop stand. I can see you can appreciate my taste. It's called the Fjallbo, and it costs $60. Okay, that's okay. And then I click on this bottom right. I can place, and then my camera goes on. I see it in my room, and I can drag, drop, place, replace, rescale anywhere I want. And as you can see, the shadow, the dimension, the perspective, it all changes with the way I look. So this is the LiDAR technology at work. And I think this is crucial for the future of retail, because in the past, that was the unique selling point of physical. Try before you buy, right? That couldn't happen on the web. Well, right now, I think with this technology, you can actually try before you buy online. So blurry line. Let's continue. You'll see that many more companies, not just IKEA, but more companies will start to not only hire SEO consultants or conversion optimizers or developers, but also 3D animators, real artists who knows what it is to design for digital natives. Clothing, for example, here from the Fabricant, that only exists in the virtual space. Another company that does brilliantly is Artifact. They were able to create these wonderful sneakers that everybody wanted. Guess what? A couple of months ago, they were acquired by Nike. That's right. Nike loves selling physical shoes, but they also want to dip their toes in the water of what's called the digital realm, or what other people call the metaverse. There's also this press release says it's Nike's entrance into the metaverse. Now, I know that the moment I mention the word metaverse, of course, a lot of you are thinking, isn't that Mark Zuckerberg's new hobby? And it sort of is, but he's just one player. There are many other people, companies, institutions, developers, open source communities who are trying to build their version of the metaverse. I call them mini-verses. And the moment we have interoperability, then perhaps we could talk about the metaverse. But in the meantime, I think it's nice to see what, I want to say old gray people, but it's McKinsey, right? Okay, trustworthy consultants have to say. They came out with a big report last June saying that the metaverse is the place for value creation. They say that it's going to be worth $5 trillion by 2030. And, well, is that just pie in the sky? Well, perhaps for a bit. If you look closely in the report, they just add up all the online spending and then they call it metaverse. Okay, but there is, of course, a little chunk that people actually buy, for example, in a game or in a virtual environment. And this is why people right now say that they already are spending money in the metaverse that doesn't exist yet, but what they mean is in-app gaming. So I think that it is interesting for retail to see what the metaverse will bring, but it is sort of eating itself, because if you buy a physical pair of sneakers in the metaverse, you won't buy it in the Nike shop, right? So that's the same pair of sneakers. The only added value, perhaps, is if Nike can also send you the digital copy of this particular pair of sneakers, right? An NFT, that's what we call it. So what other lines are there that are blurring? I think another important line is the line of intelligence. So, of course, we have human intelligence, but more and more of our decisions right now are being supported or perhaps taken over by clever algorithms. So data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, you've heard it mentioned many times, but I think that right now is the moment to think about what part of your job can better be done by an algorithm, better be done by an AI. not because you lack certain skills. No, it makes you scale faster, and you can develop other skills that are actually the exclusive domain for human beings, like creativity and empathy. Let me give you an example of something that scales really rapidly, and that is the example of Ant Financial, another Chinese company that grows like crazy. They have this special branch, it's called My Bank, and what they do is supply loans or credit to SMEs. And at one point, they were like here in all the work. They couldn't do it manually with their human interfaces or their human resources. So they said, OK, we're going to solve this in a digital way. And what they did was use historic data, a lot of data, a machine learning algorithm, and an approach what they call 3-1-0, which means that you, as an SME, you can go on your smartphone. It takes 3 minutes or less to fill in the application. And then it takes 1 second for the algorithm or for the set of algorithms to look at your application, compare it to all their historic data, do an assessment of your application, come to a conclusion to say yes or no, 1 or 0, right? And within this second, also pay you out this particular loan that you got on your Alipay account. And it takes 0 human beings involved. This is why this is in my presentation, 3-1-0. They're growing like crazy. As you can see, more than 20 million SMEs, entrepreneurs, were happy customers of this machine learning algorithm that did give or didn't give them their loan or their line of credit. Right. So another example of an AI or a set of algorithms that can help you in your daily job. If you've read the news, then you've seen this many times for the last months. It's called DALL-E. It's a product or a service by OpenAI. There are also others like Imagine from Google or Midjourney. There are many out there. But what they do is they take an input, like a little piece of text, then you hit transform or you hit imagine, and then the algorithm will create an image, like a photo or an illustration or a painting, based on your keywords and the entire body of work of other illustrations that this algorithm has seen. Let me give you an example. If you type in a group of cavemen taking a selfie, a group of cavemen taking a selfie, the model of DALL-E says, well, that doesn't sound crazy at all. Let me give you the image. And there it is. Cavemen taking a selfie. How do they do this? Well, somehow it works. Or, for example, if you want to say, I am a big fan of SpongeBob SquarePants, I wonder what he would look like if he was painted by Picasso. No problem. As you can see to the left, this is DALL-E. It says this is what SpongeBob looks like, and this is Midjourney, the other tool that I mentioned. So this is a very addictive hobby. I can tell you, I spent many nights just typing in crazy prompts, but I thought to put it to use, I thought, well, today is the impact cube. Let's see what it does with that. No problem. It gives you the impact cube. I say, well, let's talk about the future of commerce. No problem. It gives you the future of commerce. The future is fluid, dash Channable, dash eCommerce, dash inspiration, and it gives me this. So I think with that, I've done also next year's artwork for this amazing event. And with that concludes my little tip of the iceberg. This was just to get started, like a leeway for the other speakers to actually tell their stories. So for now, I want to thank you, and it's time to introduce our very next speaker, and that is Mr. John Lin. Thank you. Hey, John.
Jim.
Welcome.
Thank you.
On this beautiful stage, don't you think?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's good to be in front of real people.
Real people. Are they real, or were they created by an AI? We don't know.
We never know.
No. John, as I said in the introduction, you're here to talk about the future of retail. And that is mostly based on some of the trips that you've taken to China, am I right?
Yeah, basically holiday stories.
Okay, well, I can't wait. Let's hear what John has to say. Give him a big round of applause, Mr. John Lin.
He runs away with my clicker.
The clicker. we rehearsed it so many times, yeah.
Yeah, so these are my grandparents. I call them nanai, gejeje. And as you can see, they're quite fond of their smartphones. And when I'm visiting them in China, they are the ones that order a Didi, the Chinese Uber, for me at the airport. I'm also the one who has to tell them, Grandma, Grandpa, your grandchildren are here. Please be social, put your phones away. So imagine if 2 old people in China act like this, how the rest of China is acting. So as you can see, I'm a typical Dutch Western-born Chinese, and every stereotype is true. So my parents run restaurants, I'm good with numbers, and I invest in everything what you can think of. Growing up here is always challenging. Here you're not direct enough. If people ask me about my opinion, it takes a while. But in China, I'm way too direct. If I tell to a friend of my father to help him with something, I get scolded because I insulted him. But growing up, I realized it's a privilege to be in between cultures and bring them together. So today I will take you to a journey into China and tell you and show you what's happening there and how we can learn from that. So who here still thinks Amazon is one of the most innovative retailers? Good, you're getting the point. So this is Amazon Prime Air. Their drone, it delivers packages. It's a pilot around Cambridge. They can lift up around 2.5 kilograms and they have a range of 25 kilometers. Amazing. This is a drone of JD.com. They have more than 100 commercial flying routes. They can lift up around 100 kilograms and they have a range of 100 kilometers. The reason this works is that they are not doing this in the village, in the major cities, but in small villages with bad infrastructure. And governments work together with them to fix the policies to make this possible. This is Amazon Go. Big hype in 2017. You walk in there, grab your products, walk out, and the products gets accounted in your Amazon account. There's no cashier anymore. It started as a beta on their campus. They have around 30 physical shops right now in the US, and they keep this technology close to themselves. These are the stores in China. You have multiple concepts, thousands and thousands of these kinds of cashierless shops. And this technology is shared on the platforms. So all the companies inventing this technology share them to small SME companies to make sure that they can become digital. And on social commerce, we're just starting here. Amazon is starting with live streams. Instagram is making their pictures shoppable. But in China, social commerce is super big. This is a farmer. He sells his products direct to consumer on Alibaba's platforms. And they live stream all the time. Around half of Chinese internet purchases start with a social touchpoint. They do the craziest things to get your attention and to get you to buy their stuff. So it's really entertaining to be on the socials every day and night. But how can it happen? How can China go so quickly? And this is the biggest proof. Amazon in China is just a seller on Alibaba's platform. Tmall is a sub-platform of Alibaba, and Amazon is a seller on there. They are not the major platform. Amazon Go, every country they go, they usually become one of the biggest platforms, but in China they have around 2% and they almost killed the project. So why can China go so quickly? Leapfrogs. China leapfrogs in their innovation. They want to become the world leader. They want to surpass the USA. Now, what do you need to do? You need to invest in infrastructure, education, technology. And the quickest way to do that is throw away all the old stuff and get the newest stuff that's out there. So they did this with their train network. The old stuff, 80 kilometers an hour, slow, loud, smelly, bad for nature. And within 1 decade, they go to 400 kilometers an hour. They have the largest high-speed railroad network in the world, and currently they are still building more railroads combined, more than the rest of the world combined. So from 80 to 400, and they're not too proud because they don't develop this technology in-house. They ask the best expertise around the world for the first version, and then they iterate on that. In communication, the same thing happened. Here we went from the faxing machine to the computer, and somewhere we ended up on the smartphone. In China, most of the people got into contact with the internet first on their smartphone. So we talk here like, yeah, we developed mobile first. There it's mobile only. You maybe have a desktop site, but that's just to have it and it works barely. And the demographics are amazing. You have more smartphone users in China than the US and Europe combined. So as a developer, you have immense skill. And all these Chinese people are just in two ecosystems, the one of Tencent and one of Alibaba. Left, you see their social platforms. WeChat is their WhatsApp, Weibo is their Facebook, Youku is their Spotify, Netflix. It's all connected to e-commerce platforms. Those of JD, Tmall, and Taobao. And everyone has their own payment methods. So, and everything is connected. These two guys have around 80% of the social media, 90% of e-commerce, and 95% of all digital payments. It's quite abstract, so what does it mean in practice? App management is way easier. We have an app for every small platform we need. In China, you can go around with 2 super apps. And this has big implications on how you shop. We go to Google, we find a product we like, we put it in a basket, we go to the checkout, we get around 8 payment options. Then you go to your email inbox, thank you for your order. And then if you want to know where your package is, you go to the app or the website of the delivery company. In China, this is way easier. You just never leave an app. There is no friction in between to lose the customer. And this all comes together in China on one day. This is Singles Day. They call it the Olympic Games of the internet. And they also call this social shopping because you use every channel you have to make sure that it works, that you can convert your sale. I first saw Singles Day when I studied in China, in Shanghai. And it was the day after Singles Day at my campus. And I was thinking, wow, this delivery company isn't doing their job right. But my professor of Chinese culture, or propaganda, how you call it, he said to me, John, you should be glad that your package is even in the neighborhood, because this is something of such a scale, you don't see this in the West. So since I'm working currently at the largest e-commerce company in the Netherlands, I have some feeling about volume. So these are all the packages that the market leader in the Netherlands sends in a year. All the packages that the biggest delivery company in the Netherlands sends in a year. All the packages that Amazon sends internationally in 1 year. And all the packages that Alibaba sends on Singles Day. The rest of Alibaba doesn't fit in this graph, or the rest will become very small. So how does this work? How can they send so many small things? And they are small things, so you can buy 1 lipstick or 1 bag of chips, or even your Starbucks coffee in China, and it gets delivered to your desk. And it's all aided by their social shopping concept. So if a friend sends you a link on WeChat, hey, this bag of chips is really nice, you should try it. You click on that link, and then you go to a product page within that app. You click on the product, and it gets delivered the same day. Then you go to the Moments feed, you scroll through that. It's like your Instagram news feed. And you see a celebrity promoting this new smartphone. And you see all these buttons. And you can click on it, you buy it, it gets delivered within an hour. And you can use that phone right away. But then you scroll further, it's around 6 o'clock, you're hungry, you see your friends eating out. But then you don't want to go out, but you still want food. You click on the name of the restaurant, you see their menu, you click on it, and it gets delivered at your house within 30 minutes. All this time, you, your friends, the celebrity, the restaurant owner, the delivery guy, you've never left the app. The payments, the authentication, it all happens within that one click. And you see this going into the offline world in China. So this is Gema, omni-channel supermarket. It's a sub-brand of Alibaba. And you see order pickers walking around these stores. They grab the orders that are ordered online, they get flown through the store, and they put them into boxes, and scooters can pick them up. You can order a live king crab and it gets delivered within a half an hour to your house. But that's not all. What if you come into the store and you don't want those groceries in the busy subway lines of Shanghai? It's not a problem. You give those bags to the store clerk, you give them a time slot, and they deliver it at your house. But then you have one type of consumer that goes to the supermarket every day to buy one small set of groceries, cooks them at home, rinses and repeats, and does the same thing the next day. For this consumer, they also have a solution. You can bring your bag of groceries to a cook there, you scan a code to pay, and they cook the dish you like. So it doesn't matter where the consumer is, in the store, on the phone, or at the restaurant. This store has a solution for that consumer, wherever he or she is. So it's not about fixing online versus offline or making that transition happen. It's really putting that customer central. And the fun thing is these stores are in very expensive places in Shanghai, next to Apple stores or Rolex boutiques, because they need to have those places to reach the delivery times. They cannot survive on only offline revenue. They need the online revenue to make that store profitable. And you see this a lot in China, where the lines of online and offline are blurring. So you have stores with unlimited shelves. If the color of your pants are not there, you can just press a different color and they send it to your house. And it's all driven by one big vision of Alibaba. Jack Ma once said, only when clicks and mortar can work together, the digital economy can become the economy. In China, they say that those two economies shouldn't be separated. They should be integrated into one big place. And the nicest thing where they do this is with dad and mom stores. You have millions of those. They are quite trashy, cozy. They are inherited from your grandparents to your parents to you. These will be wiped out by the internet. That's one thing for sure. And you don't want those millions of jobs to be gone. So what happens? Alibaba and JD go into your store. They ask you, do you want to come to the 21st century? And they say yes. Your store gets a leapfrog. You get their payment systems, supply chain systems, purchasing systems, customer recognition systems. And the cool thing here is there's an online-offline learning loop. When you walk through to the streets with your phone and you want a product, the app can tell you, oh, it's over there, you can pick it up right now. But at the same time, the store owners can see, hey, around your area, these and these products sell a lot, put them more on stock. And if you're in the store, like I'm the type of guy who doesn't need service, if I want something, I will ask it. And if I gave consent to the store owners to see my data, they can see that, and I get a personalized experience, just the same as I can get online. So what can we learn from China? 3 simple things. Dare to leapfrog. We should not be scared to throw away the old things to put something new in place. The second thing is get inspired about how the platforms of Tencent and Alibaba work. They are way broader and way more holistic about customer experience across way more different platforms. And third, omnichannel is a reality in China. They are not talking about online versus offline. They are talking about how they can redefine retail for the end consumer. 谢谢关注. Thank you. And back to you.
Good stuff. Every time I hear you talk, I'm amazed in how far sometimes it feels that we are still back, if this is the future.
Yeah, every time I go back from China, the airplane feels like a time machine.
It is, yeah. So let's just pretend that we are now in 2028, and one of your predictions of the super apps has come true. So in Europe, we also have super apps. Do you think then that it will be a platform player like Google Android, or more like Facebook, who has all the audience?
Facebook is one of the most likely to get there because they have the most time of the consumers here.
Right.
And that's a great starting point.
Yes. And they also try social commerce, right, in Instagram.
Yeah, the fun thing is Mark Zuckerberg, his wife is Chinese. He speaks fluent Mandarin. He's a lot in China, so he knows what he's doing.
Right. Yeah, interesting. Now, there's one thing that in Europe that we don't really like, and that is login. I think that is the reason why we have so many different apps and payment methods. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. And even if we don't like it, we are quite locked in.
Yeah, we are.
I saw you using an iPhone, so you know how it feels like.
Yep, I do. Is that something that will be solved, or will that be the reason that we won't have these super platforms, super apps
The
here?
fun thing in China is that most of the platforms are interoperable, so they work across each other.
Right.
And that's something we're not seeing here quite yet, but I think it will come.
Interesting. So many people are sending in questions. Thank you very much. Let me just highlight a few. One from Connor. The question is, what role will social media play in the holiday season for apparel retailers? And how can retailers leverage these channels in a sustainable way? Wow, it's like 5 questions in one, but...
Whoa, yeah. Social will have a bigger role here even. And using the right influencers to target your right consumer will help you sell the product way faster.
Right.
And one thing we should learn from China to how to see influencers is to see what their network is, who their followers are. And if that's the right target group for your work with that influencer.
Right. So one would say that influencer marketing is already a big thing in Europe?
Yeah, it's starting.
Yeah.
Not that big as there, but it's just something we should learn.
Sure. And then immediately there are institutions that say, wait a minute, an influencer, if he or she says something on a YouTube channel, should be disclosed as an advertisement.
Yeah,
Or
and
at least in the Netherlands.
Yeah, you can do that with small print, but that's all okay because in China they are also very open about like I got paid to do this or it's sponsored, and they are okay with that.
All right, nothing new there.
Nothing new there.
All right. A question from Andrea. Hi, John.
Hi, Andrea.
Cool. How can retailers remain authentic while still pursuing a commerce-driven agenda?
Now, one thing I learned in China is don't be too perfect.
Don't be too perfect.
Yeah. So what separates a good retailer or influencer from a bad one is ones that are not too perfect with like their webinars or their presentation and like show you're human. And that's and that's become an art of itself.
Right.
How you
the art of authenticity.
Yeah.
And it's okay to mess up sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm doing a great job so far.
Yeah.
Very authentic. Yeah. All right. Last question. What is your advice for SMEs? What can they learn from everything you just said? Something they can try tomorrow or the day after tomorrow?
Yeah, the hard thing for SMEs within a platform world is to be unique compared to other ones. So try something that's hard to copy. And also use all the different platforms there are to your advantage. So try them out. Like TikTok is experiencing with e-commerce.
Right.
Just try it.
Sure.
And Instagram is trying it. Just try it. If it works for you, try what the quirks are, and then you will figure it out.
And should you try it yourself, or should you hire someone who's going to try it out for you?
It depends on your skill level and the amount of time you have.
And the amount of time, yeah. We're back at time. John, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Let's give him a big round of applause. John Lin, ladies and gentlemen. Woo. Yeah, please be seated because we're in for a treat. Because next speaker is Robert Smit. Robert Smit from Channable. He's the group product manager. And we asked him to push the boundaries a little bit. He's going to give a presentation in augmented reality. And it is all about the tools that you can use. And we're going to learn from Sheila. So big round of applause for Mr. Robert Smit. Give it a go.
You're currently selling your products online. And let's face it, if you're in this crowd, you probably are, it's most likely that you would like to scale these online sales. But e-commerce is fluid, so the tactics that you applied when you got into e-commerce can only sustain your growth so far. Technology can be a guide to choosing the right path, and therefore it's important that you choose components that are easy to use, customizable, and that are quick to adjust to market changes. And since 90% of all e-commerce startups fail within their first 120 days, you really cannot afford to miss any turn. Hello, my name is Robert Smit, and my goal today is to take you on a journey through growing up in e-commerce. But first, a little bit about me. I am the group product manager at Channable, and as such, I lead the product management team. And therefore, my primary job is to provide an environment for our customers to scale their business through automation. So in this talk, I'm going to share some important destinations and challenges that you might come across on your trip. And more importantly, give you an overview of what an e-commerce journey to maturity might look like. Now, to highlight this journey, I'm going to tell you the story about Skylight, a fictional shop and their e-commerce journey. They are a high-end jewelry chain with 4 physical locations and an online webshop. And over the past 10 years, it's been run by the owners, Dan and Patricia, and it's grown to a company of about 60 people. Now, a new brand was added to their catalog. And over the last couple of months, their online webshop has also started to pick up some pace. And on the back of these online developments, they want to start scaling. But of course, they're not going to go at this alone. And they hired Sheila, who is actually the main character of our story today, and is their first dedicated online marketer. And she's specifically been tasked to bring this new brand to at least 2 marketplaces that are relevant for Skylight. Now, Sheila sets off as this journey, and already when she's arriving at the first station, basically, she finds that the product data of these products is unfortunately very low. Yeah, they spend some time optimizing this at the source, but when she starts uploading these products, it really falls short. And common issues at this stage include anything from missing fields, uncapitalized titles, weird HTML artifacts in the descriptions, or some unruly nested JSON objects that Sheila has really never seen before. Now, these problems were flagged before, but they were never prioritized over more ad hoc issues. And if you're at this stage, it is very important that your data strategy is set up such that it will sustain your future growth. Now, maturity in this area can imply that you have governance rules in place, metrics to track the health of your product data. And for Sheila, it means that she doesn't have any size mismatches or incomplete item descriptions because she knows that they rank among the top reasons for returns. And moreover, highly optimized product images can seriously boost the discoverability of her products. So she creates a set of reusable data quality use that she can use across all of these platforms. Now, at Channable, we also track the health and quality of product data. And we found that using our rule engine, our customers have a data quality score of our average 75 out of 100. And moreover, when they start in their onboarding phase, we quickly see this score increasing in the first days or weeks after they started. And therefore, we believe that it is really the digital foundation upon which other capabilities can be built. Now, if we go back to Sheila, she's been working on rules that make sure her product quality data is at least 80 out of 100. And she thinks at this stage that this is enough because all the other checks that she can do are basically still optional. And now that their data quality issues have largely been addressed, she's actually reached the first level of their e-commerce digital maturity. And with those in place, they are now ready to take the next step. The thing is, she now finds herself at a kind of a crossroads, because with limited time and resources, will she focus on product experience, or are the orchestration processes holding her and Skylight back from scaling? Now, let's begin with the route of e-commerce orchestration. If your business is struggling with complex needs around order management, inventory allocation, or fulfillment management in general, then this is the area that you need to start focusing on. However, Sheila realizes that this is not necessarily the case for Skylight, or at least not as much that any investment in this area will transfer them into a digital leader in their segment. She does realize that performance analytics will make her advertising team better at strategizing, but also that the organization is currently really lacking any knowledge to contextualize this data, so that she probably ends up doing it herself. And she figures that if this becomes an issue, she can always pick it up with a marketing agency at a later stage. So after discussing with her colleagues and the owners, they decide to improve and align their product experiences across all of the channels that they sell on. But at the moment, they don't have any presence on any of these new channels. So focusing on competitive pricing and getting favorable reviews seems like the logical first step. And since there's very few ways to directly influence getting these positive reviews, they decided to invest in competitive prices first. Now, they are a luxury brand, and it is really important for them that they are highly competitive on key items while also maintaining a brand image that resonates with their overall value proposition. Simply put, they don't want to be seen as a discounter. And this is also why they choose to only list their new brands on this marketplace, because they will be the first to offer, which gives them an edge. And as such, they don't really need to undercut other competitors on this marketplace because they have this exclusivity. But through dynamic repricing rules, they can also make sure that new competitors that enter the market, and if their prices are also competitive, that for Skylight, they remain competitive with respect to their margins and also their brand image. So by curating their offers and implementing a dynamic pricing strategy, Sheila and Skylight have again leveled up their e-commerce maturity, which takes them now to the intermediate stage of their growth journey, ready to take it further another step. Now, wrapping up this stage, they have climbed up the e-commerce maturity ladder, but that doesn't mean that they've reached the final destination. And the route that they traveled was deliberately chosen for them as the most impactful, but there are many roads that they can choose from. And choosing the right one for you and your business can be a daunting task, even for the most seasoned e-commerce marketer. And this is what we think makes e-commerce fluid. It's a multi-route approach that is never linear and can even sometimes loop back onto itself. And to make your journey successful, you probably need some help along the way. And whether you're an experienced marketing manager at a big brand or just dipping your toes in the e-commerce ecosystem, you want your tech stack to afford the possibility of achieving your path to success. And therefore, again, it's important that you choose components that are customizable, easy to use, and quick to adjust to market changes. And finally, if you also want to experiment a little bit, it really also helps if it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. And with that, I would like to conclude this presentation. I started with the statement that e-commerce is fluid and use Skylight and their steps to maturity as an example, showing that instead of a linear path to growth, there are multiple journeys that you can take. And the sooner that you see the whole map, the better that you will be able to plot your ideal course. Thank you.
Great job, Robert. Well done. First presentation in AR that I've seen live, so well done. And the future is not linear. It is fluid, it's multi-route. Man, I've learned so much. And I'm sure that you have many questions for Robert. And can we get back to the questions, the chat function, please? You are chatting like crazy. So the most asked question so far was, are these sessions recorded? They're so amazing. Can I rewatch them? And the answer has been given. The answer is yes, they are recorded and they will be shared. So that is great. Also, some nice product plugs. I see people from Nike saying hello, that's good. TikTok says hello, that's interesting. And a lot of people are very international, so that is also great to see. Keep sending those remarks in and sending your questions in. People having trouble with Chrome, but it's also repaired, so that's awesome. And remember, earlier, before the break, I asked a question in the form of a poll. So perhaps we could, to refresh our memory, let's see the question one more time. It was about challenges in your particular niche. What are the current challenges you are facing in your niche? And then lack of data, missing insights, lack of overview, or lack of time. Can I have a drum roll? Could you stamp your feet a little bit? So, brrr, yeah, that's nice. And the results are... Thanks. Lack of data quality, not so much. Missing insights about the target audience, more. But C, lack of overview over data and channels seems to be the high score. And lack of time, it's okay. No, it's mostly that we lack overview over data and channels. Sounds like people really like their dashboards and their feeds and their insights. So I'm sure that we'll hear more from that by the next speaker and the Q&A with Robert in a moment. So what can I say about our next speaker? Well, first of all, she is zooming in from San Francisco. So it's, I think, pretty early there right now. So let's hope that she also had her coffee. What can I say about her? Well, she is the global product marketing lead at Google. She's also the CEO and co-founder of Wave Studio. And besides that, she also finds the time to be a mentor and a speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Aida Oghabi. Woo!
Hello, everyone. As Jim mentioned, my name is Aida Oghabi, and I am currently dialing in from Sunnyvale, California, to talk to you about changing consumer behavior and how e-commerces can be more ambiguous to this. So before we start, to give a small introduction of who I am, as mentioned, my name is Aida Oghabi, and I may be a person of a lot of titles. So I do work full-time as a global product marketing lead at Google. And I also have my own company where I'm a co-founder and CEO of Wave Studio, that is an e-learning platform within the creative industry. And whenever I have the time, I'm also a mentor and speaker, which is why I'm here today. But however, despite working for different companies and working with a lot of different companies, it is important to notice that my presentation today is a reflection of the 10 years of experience that I have within digital marketing and may not necessarily be associated with the companies I work for. However, to start off, let's start with a small exercise. So what I would like for you to do is to close your eyes, take a deep breath and relax, almost as if you're going into a meditating state. Now imagine that it is weekend, you have had your 8 hours of sleep, you don't necessarily have anything on your agenda, and you have had a rough work week, so you do need that relaxation and you do deserve it as well. Waking up, the first thing that I normally do and a lot of other people do is to grab your phone to get an update on what is happening in your life and with your friends. So looking at that phone, now imagine that 3 out of those 7 notifications are ads that are not necessarily relevant to you, which means that you simply click them away and filter them away as if they did not exist. You continue your day, you grab your cup of coffee and you continue your day and you start looking at social media. And you notice that in between the different posts that are an update of your cousin's wedding and a cute cat video, you have roughly 2 to 3 ads in between that. Frankly, a little bit annoying if this is not relevant to your intent, but your friend reaches out to you and would like to do a catch-up over a lunch. So you sit in your car, you put the radio on, and in between the greatest hits that are going on, you find yourself being stuck in traffic with at least 5 other ads playing. And while you look at the beautiful atmosphere, you have billboards, posters, and loads of other ads that are being exposed to you. But you finally get to your destination and you have your catch up with your friends, you have your lunch, and then finally your friend decides to recommend a product that they have recently used. Now, some people may not see this as an ad, but it might also be concerned as an ad, as in some companies' cases, it is what we call earned media. So what is happening in the average life of people? Well, on average, every person is being exposed to roughly 362 ads in different formats. And because we're being exposed to so many different ads, our brains have become much better at filtering what is not relevant to us. And with that, we've also received more control on how to filter this, especially when it comes to digital marketing, where we do have the option of blocking and removing ads that we don't find relevant. And in some cases, making sure that we block all the ads that we see. So the question is, why do people decide to block ads? Well, any report that you would look at these days, you would find that the number one reason why people decide to block ads is because they do find the ads to be interruptive, intrusive, frankly annoying, and in some cases a bit upsetting. In fact, according to research that was done in 2022, we found out that 81% of internet users in US clicked that the number one reason why they use ad blockers is because they find it being interrupting. And this is not something that only happened in 2022. If we look back at a research that was done by HubSpot in 2016, we see that the number one reason, even back then, was that ads are annoying or intrusive. Other reasons that they did find was that they disrupt what they're doing, and also some security concerns and privacy concerns. And despite this report being all the way back in 2016, they're still very much relevant today. And the only thing that has changed is that privacy concerns has increased. So we need to make sure that we are not interrupting consumers out there, that we're not interrupting the intent of the users, and that we do respect their privacy and security. So that is one trend that has been going on. What's next? Well, you've probably heard attention span of a goldfish. I sometimes use that when I am trying to mark a friend or someone else as having a short attention span and having a hard time focusing. So it's sometimes used to tease people and to be somewhat insulting. But if we look at the attention span of human, what is it that we find then? Well, back in year 2000, which is when the internet boom was, before smartphones, and Google was only 2 years, and this was before social media, we found out that the average attention span of a human is 12 seconds. So actually not that far off from the attention span of a goldfish, which is 9 seconds. So even back then, we were still quite close to the goldfish, but we could still insult people and tell them that they had the attention span of a goldfish. But later on, what happens with the internet evolution and with smartphones coming out, with social media coming out, the attention span on average had become 8 seconds back in 2013. Now that is already shorter than a goldfish. But if we look at what happens even further, back when I started at Google in 2016, we found out that the average attention span of human had declined to 6 seconds, which is why a lot of media started to change their formats to try to accommodate these 6 seconds. And if we look at what has happened even further down the line, from 2016 up until now, we have less than 3 seconds to grab someone's attention online, especially on social media, where people do have the control to scroll or swipe if they don't like your ad. And in a lot of cases, we have less than 1 second to grab their attention on some medias. Because otherwise they will make sure that they scroll, they swipe, they close your ad, and in worst case, they will block your ad. So you won't get that message through. Now, that being said, with attention span declining and with patience being less with our users, there's still one trend that continues to increase, and that is the good news for the e-commerces out there. If we look at the worldwide sales from 2019 and what we forecast in 2024, eMarketer did a research and they did a forecast where they presumed that despite the year-on-year increase being significantly higher during the pandemic because of the user behavior changing, one thing that continued to change and increase despite that is the sales worldwide for e-commerce. So with that being said, we won't stop the growth of sales in e-commerce, and there's still a great opportunity for e-commerces to grab there. The only question is how we do this. How do we make sure that we grab this revenue and sales opportunity that is still going on online? Well, we need to make sure that we accommodate the users. And by doing so, we need to stop interrupting. We need to stop being intrusive. We need to respect the privacy. We need to respect the security. But we also need to make sure that we inspire. So a lot of users out there are looking for inspiration when they are reaching out to e-commerces. They are looking for your brand, but you need to make sure that this is being in a way that is deemed authentic and in a way that is being deemed assistive. Another thing to accommodate their lack of patience and their lack of attention span, it's to make sure that we do give them the instant gratification and make sure that the delivery is happening as soon as possible, because the consumers out there want the delivery to happen soon. They want the service to happen soon. They want the support to happen as soon as possible. And if it is the case of them having to go somewhere, they also want it to be as near as possible. So these are the trends that have been going on with consumers for a very long time. Now, a lot of people ask me when I hold these presentations, all right, so we see the patience decline. We also see the attention span decline, but we also see the sales going up. So what can we do to make that happen? There's no secret formula on how that could happen. But if we were to look at a secret formula, if it is so that you've studied business, and if it is so that you've studied marketing, or if it is so that you've been within e-commerce for a longer time, you may have seen this before. This is what we call a media mix. So earned media being what is coming from your consumers and your users that are out there. And this could be done by feedback, reviews, or other ways. Then we have paid media, which is the advertisements that you pay for in different types of ads and different types of formats. And then you have owned media, which is your own properties, such as your website, your app, or other data or similar that you may have. So here's a few tips from me, who have been studying this for a while and who is working with e-commerce for a very long time. When it comes to earned media, the number one thing you should do is to connect with your audience. Make them feel heard, make them feel seen. Make sure that you are attentive and you do see the trends coming in from your users, the current customers that you have. Make sure that you utilize the feedback. Feedback should not be underestimated. It's not just about reviews going back and forth, but actually taking that constructive feedback and make changes in your company. If we look at paid media, there's a lot of different ways to utilize automation, and mainly to utilize this in bidding and targeting. So I saw from the poll before that a lot of people feel like it's a challenge to understand your audience and get insights about your audience. There's a lot of great tools out there that could do that for you. So make sure that you find them and you utilize them. And when it comes to our content, the best way to accommodate the new behavior is to use responsive and dynamic ads. This way, you will make sure that you're at the right place at the right time, but most importantly, that you are using the right message that the users are looking for. Now, looking at owned media, meaning the own properties that you have, which is the website, the mobile app, and other properties that are being shown, definitely recommend that you are user and privacy centric in all of your owned media. So make sure that the user experience is seamless, make sure that you do respect the privacy, and make sure that you assist the customer throughout their customer journey. It's very important to understand the customer journey and try to be assistive throughout the way. And one way to being that is to speed up your web page, speed up the delivery, and speed up the customer support. As mentioned, consumers have a very low patience, and we need to make sure that we accommodate all those stages throughout the user journey. But the most important part, even though we have all these three different pillars and all these different parameters to look at, the one part that applies to all of them and applies to your company strategy, your marketing strategy, and the one advice that I have today is to make sure that you utilize the data and that you're data driven. So by doing so, you look at the historical data and the real-time data in all of these three different aspects to see how you can accommodate the customer behavior and how you can create a better marketing strategy. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the presentation and that you learned some new things about the customer trends and how we can be more ambiguous. If you have any questions or if you would like to connect, I recommend you to do so on these two channels. And thank you so much for listening.
Time went by so fast. I sat down, I closed my eyes, I listened to your story, Aida. It was breathtaking. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
What's the time there in San Francisco?
Oh, it's actually past 7, so 7:25 over here.
Oh, okay. So no breakfast for you still, or?
I had it before.
Okay,
Woke up
good.
early.
All right.
I'm an early bird.
Yes, I could tell. So we're here joined with Robert. Robert, thank you. Welcome to my living room. I'm just going to turn to all the questions that were sent in by the audience. One here, I think it's directed at Aida by Tessa. The question is, what exactly does a good relationship between a retailer and their audience should look like?
The best answer that I have to that is the same way that you would feel having a good relationship with a friend or any other person that you have a relationship with, is that it needs to feel authentic. And it might be difficult between a brand and a consumer, but as I mentioned, the best way to do so is to make sure that they feel heard and that they feel seen and that their needs are being accommodated in a very assistive way. If you interrupt them, it feels more like a friend trying to sell you something and having an agenda rather than having that authentic relationship. And that is something that we need to think of as e-commerces as well.
Right. And does it mean that you're saying focus less on paid, focus more on owned? Or do you think that a paid media can also have this relationship, this feeling?
Absolutely. Paid media could have that feeling as well. If we look at the trends of paid media, things that feels more authentic and where they feel more assistive. So let's say if a user is showing in their signals that they are looking for something and you make sure that you are there at the right time and at the right place, then you are being assistive. You are being authentic and you are accommodating the needs of the consumer and their intention.
Right. Yeah. Robert, a question for you. How do you measure success and understand the real impact of your strategy as a small retailer? Again, I think a lot of SMEs are watching right now.
I think so too. Yeah, it's an excellent question. It's a very difficult question too, I think. As I said in my presentation, there's many routes that you can take. So yeah, the most obvious answer would be that it depends differently for what kind of business that you are in.
Right.
But it's really important that if you want to start measuring what this result is, that you really have an open mind, so that the things and the tools and the processes that you use to get these results have been set up in a way that you might end up somewhere where you might not have started or might not have thought to end before you started.
Right.
So they need to be flexible. They need to be also flexible in thinking about how you start defining your own success, I think.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I'm guessing that if an SME or entrepreneur sends in such a question, usually we're focused on return on advertising spend, for example.
Yeah.
Is that a good way to measure success?
Definitely. I mean, that's definitely a way that you can measure success that you can then also use as an input for further automation. And that's always, I think, very important.
It's one piece of the puzzle. It's not the piece.
It's not the piece of the puzzle, and it also is actionable. So an insight or a piece of data without the context about making it actionable is just like watching the news. You see it, you consume it, and then you go about your day. But as soon as the information and the results that you have can actually turn into a next action, that's when it becomes really useful.
Right. And a question for you, Aida. Yeah, that is a good one, sent in by Don. The question is, in a cookie-less era, is there a correlative relationship between context, advertising, and attention? In short, can we do without cookies?
Absolutely, we can do it without cookies. There's a lot of other ways to measure that. And I highly recommend that people who are using different types of media to do so, do seek advice with the medias, because there are different products. I know working from Google that we have a lot of privacy-centric metrics that do accommodate that as well. So to make sure that the advertisers do get a full picture without using cookies.
Right. And I think a follow-up question by Jacob. What would be your advice? What would you like to say to advertisers who are struggling to reach their audience in such an overcrowded space, as you said?
Apart from the part where I mentioned try to be authentic and try to be assisting, I would definitely go back to what was just mentioned about data as well. Data is extremely important. If we want to understand our audience and if we want to understand how to build a strategy for the future, we also do need to look at historical data and real-time data and use examples of that to then build new signals and accommodate what other audiences out there as well.
That's so interesting. I hope Jacob is satisfied with that answer. Follow-up question for you, Robert. When we talk about return on advertising spend, I think it was in one of your tutorials that you said that sometimes it's okay to lose money on a sale.
That might be.
Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because I am an SME. I think,
Yes.
wait a minute, I'm not selling you anything that I don't make money of.
Yeah, so I must preface this by saying that I am personally not necessarily using Channable to optimize my own sales.
Sure.
I'm product manager, but what I have seen is that you have different goals that you want to attain with your advertising spend. So if you really want to make a product more discoverable and more visible in the market, it can mean that you are willing to spend more money to get it to make it more visible. So that and then actually your return on ad spend can be negative.
Right. You see it as an investment and hopefully a long-time relationship with that customer that turns out to be profitable.
Yeah, of course.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Should have thought of myself. Another question. Yeah, we're doing great here. Thank you so much for sending those in. I'm having a ball. A question for Aida by Ivanka. Can you share some tried and tested strategies to engage with Gen Z? Hey, that's the Gen word. To engage with Generation Z, boost conversions, influence their shopping decisions. Look forward to hear what you have to say.
Gen Z is, or Z, I'm not sure if we call it Z or Z, but it is definitely a generation that came during a time where they started to have way more lack of patience, as I mentioned, but also the instant gratification. So a few things that I have tried with advertisers that I've been working with is definitely when it comes to brand marketing to make sure that we have snappy messages that are short, that are relevant, that definitely brings out the message. And one more thing we need to remember with Generation Z is the influencer times, right? So why does this generation like influencers so much? It's because a lot of them feel like they can relate to what is online. They can relate to the influencers and the ads that are being messaged by the influencers. So we need to think of that strategy when it comes to other types of marketing as well. The more they can relate, the more they feel like this is a more assistive, short way of me being accommodated and me being assisted. That has definitely worked. And then in some cases, we do have people saying, well, what about the longer ads? What if I want to have a movie trailer? What if I want to have longer messages? What about the long term? Well, the short ones is only to get a hook. And then we need to think of the long-term relationship as well. Customer lifetime value is data measurements that a lot of e-commerces seem to forget. Right. So in order to accommodate both of that, we need to think of both short term to get the hook, but also the long term on how we keep the users, the consumers.
And you're right, I think it's Gen Z, by the way. And I think following that is Generation Alpha. Do we have any data on them, or do you have any advice on how to befriend them?
No, not necessarily.
Pretty early days, huh?
What's that?
It's pretty early days, perhaps, or...
It's still pretty early days. And for someone who is a very data-driven marketer, I would say there's still a lot of trends and data that we should collect in order to understand.
Makes sense. Actually, I think I have young children. They spend almost all their time on Snapchat. Do you have experience with Snapchat?
I don't have experience with Snapchat, unfortunately. I'm not that digitally nomadic, as you might call it, unfortunately.
Oh, I was under the impression. TikTok, you do that?
The only thing that I've heard about Snapchat lately is that it's not really going all that well with them. So
it isn't.
No, they laid off a couple of people.
Oh, that's too bad. Another question. Yeah, I'll just keep them going. It's awesome. For you, Robert, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and other key holidays are approaching. What should retailers be doing to ensure their inventory doesn't go out of stock? Because you know what the retailer says, we sell everything except no.
Yes. Well, that was kind of paradoxically. So what they should, well, let me answer that by saying what they can do to make sure that everything that's out of stock doesn't show up on the place of sale. Because, of course, things can go out of stock and they should make sure that they replenish that. But then if you make sure that in the pipeline in between, you automate the things that actually are running low, and that you configure the rules in such a way that you might take them offline if you see that there's a high volume of sales, or if there's a 0 point approaching, then you can preemptively already start taking those offline, so that at least whenever a customer wants to buy this product, that they don't end up waiting for a long time, which is of course a more negative experience.
Right. So you should anticipate ahead of time, or can that also be automated if the algorithm sees certain trends, that it does the work for you?
So the anticipation is definitely a big part of this, but you should make sure that it's more like a safeguard. So you anticipate your amount of sales, of course, that's why you buy for. And then, of course, if one product runs out quicker than the other, you have a safeguard in place that makes sure that it's not listed anymore if the stock, for example, reaches, well, 1 or 2 or some critical area.
Right, yeah. And Aida, you also mentioned that you work as a mentor and a speaker, as you are doing right now. What are some of the questions that people ask you? Say, please mentor me on X, Y, or Z. What do they say?
So there's one question that I think is very important when you find someone who is mentoring you or who you find being an inspiration to you. I think it's very easy to ask the person about their journey from A to B, but I find it more important to talk about the different failures that we've had, because in my case, I don't see them as failures, they're learnings. And if there's something that I think is very important with people that I mentor, is that they learn from past mistakes that I may have made or past failures that I may have gone through. So whether or not they do ask this, because the number one question is often what inspires you, what has brought you to where you are. But a lot of times I try to be vulnerable and talk about the times that have not necessarily been in the direction that I wanted them to be, and how I still ended up where I am today.
Right. Robert, you have a mentor, or do you mentor?
I do have mentor. Sorry, that was not directed to me.
It was for Robert, but yeah.
I would love to have a mentor. I definitely have great people within Channable as my colleagues that I can spar with, and that I also look up to in terms of how they got the product where they got it now, and then also the online mentors that I follow, which are more in the product space. But yeah, I definitely check in with them every now and then. But a physical mentor that I sit down with every week or every month, no, that's not something that I'm doing at the moment. But I think I'm actually looking forward to doing this because I do see that you cannot grow every step by yourself. You might have a fresh influence from outside sometimes.
Right. Wise words at the end of this panel session. Aida, Robert, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Aida, thank you for getting up so early and sharing your words of wisdom. Have fun there in San Francisco. And Robert, I'll see you at the Borrel. Please give them a big round of applause. Aida and Robert. Yeah. Singing. Sorry for the people who were listening on the live stream and thought, what is this strange noise? But it's such a catchy tune. We've almost come to the end of this program. And there's one person in particular, Tiago, who I think could be my friend for life. He's such a great tweeter or question asker. It's very impressive. So Tiago, if you're watching, I feel the love. It's awesome. Also, other people who are doing a great job in sharing YouTube links, other resources. So if you're sitting here, you think, I don't know what he's talking about, you should check out this tool of Reply Live. And so there's pearls of wisdom in this, but I also try to use a breakthrough technology called Ink to write down my personal takeaways from all the speakers, because we have so much to digest, and I'm sure that you'll do so during the Borrel or do it online together. But I think that John, when he said, don't be perfect, I think, geez, that's something that I think we all try so hard, right? We try to do our best and we're told to do better, etc. But sometimes it's okay just to be yourself, just to be okay. Authenticity is something that was mentioned a lot. So I try to be less perfect in the ways that I am here with you. And one other thing is that what John said, also don't be afraid to experiment. He mentioned TikTok. If you're not on TikTok, why not? Just like I joined Snapchat, sorry to say, I have 2 followers, my 2 boys, and every day they laugh at me, but I sort of get what it does and why it's funny. So that is another lesson also. Yeah, there's so much. One thing that really struck me is what John said was not mobile first, mobile only. I mean, I also have a day job, except for this. I also have my big screen. I design the campaigns. Next time I'll start on my mobile phone and I won't even look at my iMac. What else? Robert, yeah, the future is not linear. That is such a wonderful one-liner. It's multi-route, right? And if you're data-driven, you see the dashboard, you see all these feeds coming together. And he says you have to use the tools to connect them and design a flow for every occasion. I think that is a beautiful way to put that the future is fluid. Responsive dynamic ads, yeah, that was Aida. Speed up your website loading. How many of you have measured the loading time of your website in the last week? Okay, well, some of you have. The rest of you, I think that's a piece of homework. How long does it take? Can you make it shorter? Can you use other forms of hosting? Attention span of a goldfish, that really struck with me. I guess I have. What was I talking about? Yeah, no, we don't know. Yeah. Connect with your audience. There's so much. Yeah, and I can even read my own handwriting. Oh, be data-driven. Yeah, well, that is something that I think we should all take away from this beautiful event. And the last thing that I would like to stress there was about mentorship. Robert was very honest. I said, well, I like the idea of a mentorship. I don't have a physical mentor. Aida said that she is mentoring people. For myself, I have 3 mentors, people that I look up to, that I call for help, depending on what situation I am in. Sometimes it's a business-related question. Sometimes it's a very personal, relationship question. And I also try to be a mentor. I have offices at Amsterdam Science Park, that's close to the university. And I am a mentor for students of the Master AI. And I have to say that is a 2-way relationship. Because I am the mentor, but most of the times when I have a half an hour with them, I'm learning more sometimes that I think that they are learning from me. So that is also, I think, a nice piece of homework. If you don't have a mentor, try to be a mentor and see if that you can have a fruitful relationship in that way. Right. Also, F. Onions says, awesome beard. Thank you very much. It was actually 8 centimeters longer the last time we hosted this event, but I'm trying to grow myself. I've come almost to the end of this event, and I want to thank our speakers once more. Some of them are here, others are listening in the metaverse, so give them a big round of applause for Robert, John, and Aida. Appreciate it. I also want to thank this amazing crew, because you are seeing this little frame, but you don't know what's going on here behind the scenes. There are many people who are working their off to actually bring this event to you. Let's give them a big round of applause. Woo! Yes. Taking a bow, they're over there, but they're also over here. I want to thank Channable for being so daring to have me host this show, but actually inviting inspiring speakers. So let's give Channable another big round of applause also. I'm sure they appreciate it. And I want to thank you for watching, because without you, this wouldn't be fun at all. We're doing this, of course, to inspire you, to give you new oxygen, to innovate, to use data in a better way, and in the end, to go to a future where the future isn't fluid, but it's also fun and very profitable. So thank you for watching. We will be sharing some more insights and the recordings of this event later, but for now, it's okay to have a borrel, a beer, some snacks, some water, and enjoy the company. See you next year.
It's up to you what you do with your life. You have just one, so do what's right now. Somebody asked me,